Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Today we're going to be talking about the release of the Leica M6, the new Leica M6 or the 2022 Leica M6. This is an opinion video, and basically I can do them thanks to you guys through Patreons or direct donations. I'll leave the links below. But I've known about the Leica M6 re-release, or rumors of the Leica M6 re-release, maybe over a year ago. And I'm not one to like to spread rumors, but I just wanted to make sure it was coming out, and everything indicated throughout the time that it was coming out. A lot of people had hopes for this camera, this new Leica camera that was coming, new film camera from Leica, to be things that they wanted to see on Leica. So Leica cameras are right now the MP and the MA in the film lineup, and with the new release of the M6. And those two cameras have been around the 4,500 to 5,500 euro dollar for the past, I don't know, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And that is out of a lot of people's budget when trying to get into film. I don't think Leica is a brand you should start with if you're getting into film, just because it has such a high entry point. There are some goods and bads of getting into Leica straight away, but I will start with saying I don't suggest that being the first camera one should get into. There are plentiful cameras out there that you can pick up, start learning film photography, and if you end up thinking that rangefinder is something for you, you can start with some low entry rangefinders and then maybe end up with an M6 or Leica camera. I myself have owned the M6 years ago. I did not like it at all. I didn't like the red button. I didn't like the exposure, like light meter inside with arrows pointing different ways. It distracted me from composition. I could have taken the batteries out, but I still didn't like the red dot, and I didn't really want to go on with that. So my camera of choice is the one that's here to the left. It's in this situation now a black paint M2, and I really enjoy that camera. That's been my camera for the past decade. But let's talk about what it means for Leica to release the M6 and what it means for the community, because there's been a lot of polarizing comments. Obviously, when a camera comes out, there's always polarizing comments, be it in the entry level or in the high end, but high end is easier to basically make fun of because the price is so high. But let's start with the price of entry is high. This is Leica. We are talking about something that is sort of professional, well, I would say professional to a certain level, and also exclusive. Exclusive because the glass is superb, because they're high demand cameras and lenses, and they're very expensive to make. If you grab any Leica lens, usually you will notice that the dampening, the focusing, the aperture, all this stuff feels ever so slightly better than some of their competitors. And I would say competitors in air quotes because I think they stand alone, but you know what I mean. Any Voigtlander, Cosina, stuff like that, you grab them, doesn't feel the same. I'm not saying they're not good, I'm just saying they don't feel the same. Then the glass in Leica usually is a little bit over what some others can deliver, but still, again, depends on your taste. I quite like some Voigtlander stuff, super sharp, super good, but Leica does stand a little over that. So the lenses are expensive and the bodies are expensive. But there's one thing that's being said about Leica, and I think it still stands true to this date, is if you buy a Leica camera, it's rare that you will sell it making a huge loss. If you buy it new, obviously, there's a cost from being new to the next level where you're going to lose. Just like you buy a new car, you get it out of the garage, the moment you get it out, boom, 25% less for that same car. Even though you haven't done 1 kilometer, 1 mile with it, it's cheaper now because it's used, it's not new. The problem with Leica is the demand is higher than the supply, so that might not even be true. There's been forever long waiting list for the Leica MP. The camera was $5,000, but I bet you could have sold it for like 4.8 and say in the box, just 2 rolls through, and people would have bought it because they wanted it now and there was none available. So the thing is, this camera at 5,000 is expensive, but let's say 2-3 years down the road, you will probably be able to sell it for 4.5, 4K, and be happy with that. That means that basically the money doesn't go down as much. You don't depreciate as much. And I can compare to digital cameras, I can compare it to anything else you want, but mostly this camera is meant to be a professional tool. And yes, not a lot of people are shooting Leica M6s professionally, but it's kind of a professional graded tool, and that's what it's made for. And the price holds quite well. It is still, like I said, high for entry level, and people really wanted Leica to make a cheap camera. But if Leica couldn't keep the MP and the MA, the production to the demand, why would they undermine their own current lineup with a cheaper M camera, a film camera? If the new M6 or whatever they would have called it would have been $4,000 or $3,000, it would have just basically sold out immediately, which it already did at $5,000. And it's not a limited production, it's an ongoing product, but it would sold out immediately and clutter Leica production for a long, long time, if not forever. And this is something you see with other brands that currently can't even help with production, but that's a chip problem. Like the Sony cameras, FX6, if you want to look for one, it's impossible to find. You can sell a used one almost at the same price as the newer one or more. Same with the Red Komodo when it launched, you could sell it for more. But yeah, the M6 price point is something that obviously is going to make people upset because people want to see cheap. I would have loved to see the integration of some advantages to the Leica M6, maybe a faster shutter speed, even though I don't know if it's possible with the shutter they use, maybe an aperture priority, kind of like the M7, but it also could be mechanical. I don't know if that's even possible, but it's kind of like that's the only thing I would have missed. But there's other things that are very important with the launch of the M6. One of them is awareness of film photography being here to stay. And that is one thing we've been fighting for the last decade. If you've been into film for a few years, maybe you haven't heard it, but back when I started, film was dead, and that was the hashtag, or film is not dead would be the hashtag for everything. Film obviously is not dead. We know that from nowadays. It seems to be sold out all the time. Prices are going up all the time, which is good for the industry because then they can invest in more people. But film is not dead. And Leica making a M6, even though they already had two cameras, is a huge deal for the market. It shows investors, it shows users the commitment for film cameras. Then there's another topic that has been discussed with the M6 is like, oh, now the secondhand market for the M6, this is a secondhand, this is a M6 Classic basically nowadays. It would be the first iteration of the M6, then there's the TTL, then the 2022. These will go down in price. That is something that I kind of feel is not going to happen. And I'll tell you why. First of all, there's been a super high demand for the M6. Second of all, the M6 has basically attested to time. It still is a very working camera. Unless the light meter dies, you are pretty much having an M6 for a very long time. We're talking that these cameras are a minimum of 20 years old in the TTL version and the Classic even longer. And they're still shooting every day with a lot of people. That is something that's very important. But then there's also the idea of spare parts. That's a very important thing. With Leica producing the M6 again and kind of copying it one-to-one, which I want to make sure it is a copy in that sense, and the parts are compatible, that makes all the spare parts that were needed for the older ones available again, and the possibility of repairing them available again. If that is true, and I say this because I don't know if it's true, that means the M6 Classic and the TTL will hold their value even more because now people won't be scared of like, oh, if I buy that 40-year-old camera, what if there's no spare parts? What am I going to do? Well, now they're making it again. Hopefully those spare parts are compatible. Now the secondhand market can hold their value and the use that you want to give them. And the thing with the M6 is Leica could have launched any other camera. It could have been the M6B, it could have been the M7. I could have gone to like some weird number like the MF and call it Leica M film or something random. And Leica can do names. Yes, they ran out of the M7, M8, M9, M10, 11, but this could have been a different name. Why did Leica choose the M6? First of all, this is the most sought out camera in the Leica film community. People want this camera non-stop. Everybody, every time you launch it on a store, on a website, it sells almost immediately. People want it. That means Leica doesn't have to work for their SEO. They just have to launch a camera, and the next time you Google Leica M6, there'll be stores like B&H or Leica Camera or any other that will have them in stock new. And that means they will sell easier. People are lazy when they're searching for cameras, most people. So the moment they see Leica M6 and their favorite creator, photographer, YouTuber, whoever it is, and they see the M6, they're like, oh, that looks like a cool camera. And they search for it, they will find that now it's new and they will probably want to buy it new. Once again, 5K is a lot of money, but we're talking people that are buying Leica cameras. The M10 or M11 came out at like $8,000. So $5,000 for a mechanical camera with a light meter is kind of a good deal. in Leica terms. But yeah, that's what I think is going to be happening with the M6. I am almost tempted to pick one up for the sake of supporting what they're doing, but at the same time, I have no use for Leica M6. I currently have more Leicas than I would want to admit, and I'm tempted to just sell the ones I'm not using to get an M6 and have a light meter. I did sell my Zeiss Icon ZM, which I love with the aperture priority. When you want to shoot really fast with kids, it's kind of nice. You set it at f8 and the camera does the rest. I do miss that from Leica, and the M7 is still around, but also giving problems. I don't know if Leica will ever release an M7 or similar again, but it would be really nice to have a lineup with aperture priority. The only difference is, like I said, it's not fully mechanical, has electronic shutter control, and that makes it sensitive to breaking and maybe not having repairs unless they're making them again. But yeah, I'd be curious to hear what you think about the M6. Like I said, I work in the industry of camera repairs, and I think it's a really big deal if those spares will work on the older versions, because we really need spare parts being produced again. We are currently producing our own spares for some cameras, but having official ones is really important. Another topic that we can discuss is Leica has started sort of stopping support of spare parts to repair shops. That is a topic that I hope to dig a bit more and give you real information on the why, or if it's true. But so far, we have a new film camera. Leica now makes 3 film cameras, professional lineup film cameras, and let's not forget there are other manufacturers in the large format realm. We have lomography, we have mint cameras, we have stuff like that is still happening, but it's a big deal that a big manufacturer comes with a new camera in the pro lineup. I would love to see someone else pick up on the SLR, maybe Minolta kind of lineup, or maybe a Pentax K-mount film camera, because there is space to that, family of products that we need to keep on shooting. But yeah, film is basically not dead. The Leica M6 is a huge deal. I know a lot of people don't agree with what happened and how it came out, but we were just hopefully thinking they would make something they were not going to make, which is a cheap camera that's Leica made, Leica quality, Leica standards, and how would it be? How could they do it? And that's why I made a video back in a second ago about the Leica M6 and how it wasn't going to be cheaper because it just couldn't be. So yeah, I would love to hear your comments on the link below. Let me know if you think I should pick one up and make a video about it. I would maybe consider doing that just for the sake of it. It's not the camera of my dreams, but I do think it has a value and people really like it. But yeah, thanks for watching. As always, I'll leave the link below for Patreon or donations. See you in the next one. Bye.